Welcome back out on the mushroom trail. It's another just beautiful August day. We've gotten some rains out here in the Pacific Northwest, so the forest is damp. It's really quite ideal conditions for mushrooms. So it's really proven to be an incredible mushroom year so far. I'm setting out in my local lowland forest out here in Western Washington to see how my chanterelle patches are doing. So let's jump in. Let's see what we see. So I gotta say, with all the recent rain, super excited to get back out to some of my favorite chanterelle patches. I'm not really that close yet, but look what's catching my eye right over here. Just off the trail, lo and behold, we've got a beautiful chanterelle popping out. Let's give it a little tug. Look at that. Just beautiful. We've got a little twin back here. I'm just gonna tuck this in, give it a little cover to make it a little more discreet. And I'll take this one home with me. And actually, as I look just up here, look at what we got here. Yet another popping up. And give this one a little tug as well. Beautiful. Look at that. Boy, these are stocky little guys. Super firm. Beautiful August chanterelle. I'm gonna poke around here and see if I can find a few more, because where there's one or two, there's usually a lot more. So haven't even gotten to the spot yet that I'm kind of after, but they're already starting to reveal themselves. So I think it's going to be a good day out here. We'll see what the rest of the day brings. And sure enough, didn't get more than 6 feet from where I just harvested those couple that jumped out at me on the side of the trail. And another splash of color jumped out at me. See if you can see it here. Once y'all, if this is your first time kind of out on the prowl for these, you know, you're really looking for this really unique orange, yellow kind of flash, and it'll oftentimes be subtle. Some of you might have caught this little fleck down here. Take a look. There it is. So that's the color that we're going for. There's a lot of salal and Oregon grape leaves that can look somewhat similar. But this stands out to me, and once you kind of get that search image really kind of firmly set in your mind, I suspect it'll jump out at you too. It's just a shade different, but it really is different and distinct from the other yellows and oranges that might catch your eye out here along the trail. This is kind of amazing to me because this is a fairly highly trafficked trail. We're just pulling them out right along the trail. So always be keeping your eyes peeled, especially this time of year, because you never know what you're gonna find. So I'm back to one of my absolute favorite patches that I've just kind of been tending to. And boy, there are chanterelles just popping out everywhere. So look, we've got a really nice pair there. Take a look over here too. We've got another pair here. If I zoom out, see another nice one popping through right there. Let's see what else we got here as we look around. Oh yeah, here's another back here. Actually, more than one down in there. Let's actually take a quick peek. Oh yeah, those look great. Boy, just beautiful. So this patch has been producing really all summer. It really hasn't let up at all. And so I'm probably gonna go ahead, I'll harvest some, I'll leave some, and just kind of see how big they can grow to be. Oh, look at that. There's another. So I actually really have to be somewhat careful where I step in here. There's something back in here that's really catching my eye. Let's go take a closer look at that. I'm gonna work my way around that log and just see what that white blob is there. So I just worked my way around this log and take a look at this. So if I reach underneath here, quite firm to the touch, very light color, unlike those yellow chanterelles that we're seeing. I'm gonna move this log and let me give this a little tug and see what we're getting into here. Oh boy, look at that, just beautiful. Wow, what a stunner, right? This guy kind of blending in, a little bit harder to see, right? Because it's not jumping out the same way those other Pacific golden chanterelles were. Just an absolute beauty. This is gonna make me pause and look a little bit closer around here to see what all we've got going on. There may be some more of these guys hiding out. But boy, what a beefy little mushroom here. This guy's stout. So I'm kind of torn on exactly how many of these I should harvest. These guys are right in the middle of a game trail, so I'm kind of feeling like these two would be probably pretty good to harvest. And I'm kind of thinking some of these other ones, you know, this guy might be good to just kind of cover and see if I can bring it along to full maturity. These guys down here, there's a couple of them. Let's just see here. Yeah. Go ahead, give those a cut and we'll see if they continue to do their thing from here. Figure I'll just get enough today to kind of hold me over while they're reaching towards a bigger, kind of more mature state, but too hard to resist the temptation to not at least harvest a few. So I'm gonna leave a bunch of these, but we'll just kind of throw a few in the bag and we'll see what a couple more days of light precipitation bring. Cool to see. We're really out right now. And look what we have here. So I'm out in another part of the forest, in and amongst the slough. I'm seeing more signs of exactly what I came out here kind of in search of. Beautiful little chanterelles. I'm just going to break that one off. Look at that, beautiful. I'm going to leave, we've got like little primordia down there. I'm just going to cover that up. Leave a bunch of it there. But look up here. So yet another. We're going to leave these little guys here. Maybe give them a little cover. Keep them from being too easy to find. Look over here though. Look at this. Just beautiful. And again, we've got a pair. So I'm going to do my best here to just grab the one. In fact, give me a second here. Pull out the knife. This is a time, generally I'll pluck these, but when you've got these clear pairs like this and you want the other one to fruit, it's nice to be able to cut it clean from the base, like that. Boy, look at that, just beautiful. Oh man, Can't wait to cook that guy up. And then just to kind of give you an idea, here we go with this one. So we're gonna leave that fully in place there. We'll come back a little later in the season, maybe even just a couple days from now, and see what that's become. But boy, just beautiful chanterelles out here. So moving just up the trail here, this is a really cool mushroom. This is the first fresh one that I've seen this season. A lot of times, or quite often throughout the year, I'll see the older ones, but this is fresh growth of one of the favorite dyeing mushrooms used to dye natural fabrics like wools and silks and things. This is what's commonly referred to as the Dyer's Polypore, Phaeolus schweinitzii. And we can see it's got this kind of layered look. It's very soft to the touch. It's got this yellow margin that you can see as I touch that. It kind of bruises easily. It's got sort of a felty or velvety cap that's darker towards the center, and then it goes a little darker orangish brown to this yellow margin, and it's layered as you can see. This is growing at the base of an old Douglas fir, and if we zoom out and we take a close look, we can see that this thing appears to be standing dead wood. So it's either already dead or it's well on its way out. This will actually parasitize these trees, and there's a little bit of debate over whether or not they are causing the ultimate downfall of a lot of these Douglas firs, or whether they just are opportunistic and coming in towards the latter end of life. But when you see this conch at the base of an old Douglas fir, that's a sure sign that that tree is on its way out. So it's something to keep your eyes out for. And again, this is a mushroom that is really sought out by dyers and folks that work with natural fabrics. So if you know anyone who is into dyeing wools and silks and the like, keep your eyes out this time of year, because this is where they're really starting to show up, and something that I see quite routinely out here in the forest. I'm actually kind of curious to see, I feel like I've actually seen them in past years at the base of some of these other trees in here. Let's swing around and let's just see. Yeah, actually, so here's a prime example. So not around that hemlock over here, but we can see an old one at the base of this huge Douglas fir. So you can see that this one is an older version. And if I actually, let me zoom in here so that you can see. So see how this is totally blackened, but you can see how it's got this same layered look. It's a polypore, so the underside you can kind of see from the profile the way that it's got that pored structure underneath. So this is last year's Dyer's Polypore, Phaeolus schweinitzii, that's kind of hanging around. I suspect that as I keep an eye on this area, we're probably going to see a fresh fruiting of that right in this area as well. So kind of a shame. It's bittersweet seeing those. I think they're really cool mushrooms, but I hate to think of this great big old growth Douglas fir kind of nearing the end of its life cycle. So such is the way out here in the forest, I suppose. So cool to see though. So that's the Dyer's Polypore, Phaeolus schweinitzii. So check this out. So I'm just out in the middle of the forest in another one of my favorite little chanterelle spots. And I wasn't necessarily coming across chanterelles, but I was just admiring all this honeycomb coral slime mold that's popping up on all this debris. So another one of my favorite plasmoidal slime molds. And you can see that it's just all over everything in here. I was lifting up different leaves so this leaf down here, I was just kind of looking underneath, and look at that, isn't that amazing? Here's what's cool though. As I started to just kind of admire and appreciate this slime mold, part of that involved climbing down off a log and getting low to the ground. And wouldn't you know it, even though I thought we still might be a little early for this spot, you see what I see over there? Let's move down here. So take a look at this. Lo and behold, sure enough, we're not too early. We've got a beautiful little cluster of chanterelles right here. I think I'm just going to take a single one. In fact, I'm going to pull the knife out. I want to let these guys over here do their thing, and I'll probably take this bigger guy over here. But that's certainly going to cause me to look a little more closely out here. I was suspecting that we might be early for this spot, but now I think they're probably here. I just need to look a little more closely. So always pays to kind of slow down, to stop, to admire what's out here. You know, in this case, the honeycomb coral slime mold, which was fun to see. They kind of taken time to slow down and really investigate that. Led to other cool discoveries that are going to be much tastier, I'm sure. So never know what you're going to find out here. Remember, slow down, enjoy the little things. Sometimes those will reveal exactly what you're after. And along with the rain bringing about the presence of a lot of these Pacific golden chanterelles, I'm also seeing lots of these guys. So this is an Amanita mushroom. If we look a little further down here, we've got actually a much better example. This one, a little bit more stunning. This is what's commonly referred to as the jeweled Amanita. Again, we featured this one on videos past. That's not actually a very accurate name, so that's based on European taxonomy. That's, of course, the common name, jeweled Amanita. Its closest scientific name, Amanita gemmata, but again, that's based on a mushroom that we don't technically have here in North America. So, Amanita gemmata group. You'll hear different names getting thrown around, but again, white gills. Oftentimes you'll see an annulus, which is the remnant of a partial veil that used to cover these gills at younger age. But with this rain, you can see a lot of those classic warty remains of the universal veil have washed off, as well as the actual annulus. You see a little bit of speckling up there. We see some striation along the margin. When I pulled this up, it actually tore at the base, but if we could get down here, which we may be able to do, we'll see vulva or a cup, which again, that's the remnant of the universal veil, or the egg that this was essentially born out of. So those have been fairly common all summer long, and again, with this rain, I see a fresh batch of these pushing up along with these Pacific golden chanterelles. So very cool to see. Is not uncommon out here by any stretch. And here's another one of those. Really pretty. You can see this is quite vibrant, and it's got a somewhat slimy or viscid little cap. This one, you can see that annulus or ring on the stipe. So again, that's very characteristic of these Amanita mushrooms. We can see a little shaggy along the stipe, and you can see that universal and remnant of partial veil in the form of that annulus or ring. Again, white gills, bright yellow cap. On the more mature ones, you can see some striations towards the outer edge or margin of that cap. But again, kind of interesting, right? Because most of those warty, kind of speckled white spots, the remnants of the universal veil, mostly washed off by the recent rain. So good to be aware of that you're not always going to see that classic Amanita speckling on these guys, but still beautiful to look at. So I just wanted to give you a quick side-by-side comparison of the Pacific Golden Chanterelle right next to the White Chanterelle. So you can see a lot of similarities. Both have wavy enrolled margins, as well as those vein-like hymenia or gill-like structures that are decurrent running down the stipe. You can also see on this white one how now that it's kicked around a bit, it's bruising that golden color, especially on the stipe and cap. But you can see the vein-like gills still very white. Lots of rain has been falling. Let's get out and find some more. So it's about 4 days later, and I'm just back out here at one of my favorite chanterelle patches. And take a look, so just checking up. So we've got the Pacific Golden Chanterelle doing pretty well out here. So this, of course, is Cantharellus formosus. As we look over here, take a look here. These guys are really doing their thing. It's been raining the last couple days, so everything is really doing quite well. Almost feel like this is like I'm kind of farming here. So a lot of times I'll locate these and then cover them up and let them do their thing. But take a look. So if I reach down and I give this a little bit of a tug, notice we've got beautiful kind of chanterelle orange ridges, those spore-bearing surfaces here on the chanterelle. So this time of year, a lot of times they're going to be stout and sturdy, but we can see that this is a Pacific Golden Chanterelle. So that kind of gill-like ridge underneath the spore-bearing surface is the same color as the cap. It's all that kind of classic Pacific Golden Chanterelle look. So cool to see here, and we know we've got all kinds of them coming up here. A lot of these, what I'll oftentimes do is just maybe throw a leaf over them so that they're not quite as easy to pick up on. But here's something that I really wanted to highlight. Out here, west of the Cascades, I don't tend to encounter these guys as often. And I showed you one the other day, but notice if you look back here, it's somewhat tough to discern. But we've got little, what we refer to oftentimes as shrumps. So duff on the forest ground here that's been pushed up, and you may see those slight little kind of white cap surface. Take a look at this. So right next to or nearby those Pacific Golden Chanterelles, we've got the White Chanterelle. This one, Cantharellus subalbidus. Look at that. Also a sturdy structure. These are known for being a little more dense. We've got a little hitchhiker here. Looks like, there we go. Woke him up. But anyways, these are a little denser. They don't have that kind of characteristic or classic kind of golden orange appearance, and for that reason they're oftentimes don't hold the same esteem amongst commercial pickers. But I will say that these guys, I don't encounter them very often in my local forest, so I tend to really, really prize these guys. They've got an even firmer texture than the classic kind of Pacific Golden Chanterelle. And they're such a rare treat in these parts for me that I really look forward to stumbling across or finding a patch of these. So couldn't be more excited to come across the White Chanterelle, Cantharellus subalbidus, right next to Pacific golden chanterelles. So it really is amazing anytime that you're finding multiple species of mushroom right next door to one another. So you can see how different these are in color. So there's no real comparison. The gill or ridge structure underneath the cap is quite similar. We can see on this bigger one, it gets a little ruffled or wavy at the margin. You'll also see where this is kind of bruising a golden color. So sometimes these will turn yellow or golden with age or with handling. So sometimes people will confuse the white chanterelle for the Pacific golden chanterelle, but definitely different species. So cool to see them enjoying the same habitat side by side. I think, you know, a lot of these, like these guys back here, I'm just gonna let them do their thing. I've got, you know, a bag full of chanterelles in the fridge right now, so I'm gonna take these handful back and add them to tonight's stir fry. But I just figured this would be a great opportunity to, again, just kind of get a chance to differentiate those two species. They're both really out right now, out here in our lowland forest here in the Pacific Northwest. So really keep your eyes open. These guys, a lot harder to find. They're tougher to discern. So a lot of times all that you're gonna notice is a little shrump or a mushroom bump pushing up from the forest floor. You might not actually see any of the cap. So if you ever see any uplifted duff, really investigate and look closely, because you might be surprised what you find underneath. Whereas these guys tend to, you know, really pop up and stand out in a way that's much different. So you're more likely to see a flag on a Pacific golden chanterelle. These guys are probably a little bit more prized in terms of commercial picking and just kind of what people are looking for, but don't underestimate the white chanterelle. Those also an excellent mushroom, and in some regards I almost get more excited finding these in my local forest than I do these guys, just because I see so many of these, whereas these a little less common, or at least less common for me to spot. So cool to see. Keep your eyes peeled out there. Boy, they are really coming alive, and I imagine over the course of the next few days, as this rain kind of settles in and the mushrooms get a little sun to follow, boy, they're gonna go nuts out here. So locate your patches now, maybe pick a few, but leave a lot, let them grow to their full fruition, their full body, and bring them home for the pan. You won't be disappointed. Cool to see. And as was the case in other recent videos, notice I'm gonna take these little stubs, finding nice spots just a little ways from the original source. We're gonna bury those in there. See if we can't get another, or at least, you know, do our part in extending that patch a little bit further. So I like to do that, to pull up these chanterelles and then trim the bases, and then throw those bases in other kind of good habitat that you think they might do well in. And sometimes that might just be, you know, within, I don't know, 100 feet of where you found them. My belief is that that can't hurt, and there's a chance that it helps that mycelium take root a little further from home. So just something to consider, something to think about while you're out here. By no means is that mandatory. Everyone seems to have a different take on it, but I'm never fearful of pulling up a chanterelle, but I like doing my part to kind of do what I can to make them have as good a chance of spreading as possible. And sometimes, you know, as is the case with these few that I just harvested today, I'll probably carry them around with me throughout the forest, just kind of shaking them around. It's wet out here, so I don't know how many spores will really kick out, but I like that idea of spreading the seed and really kind of doing what I can to make them that much more plentiful out here in my local forest. And well, I'll tell you, so far so good. It really seems to be working for the most part, because there's no shortage of chanterelles in these parts. And here's a welcome sight. I absolutely love seeing these little guys. This is the Douglas fir cone mushroom, Strobilurus trulicatus. And look at these. So we've got a nice white cap Kind of a brownish yellow stipe, fuzzy base, growing from dug fir cones. These are really common after the first fall rains. They're hitting early this year, so this has a similar kind of time as the White Chanterelle, right after those first fall rains. And with all that rain, we're also getting some fresh growth on some of our favorite plants out here. So take a look up here. Look at what we've got. Another Pacific golden chanterelle popping out. This one pretty well anchored in there in this mess of salal and branches and roots. Let's see what we can do to liberate this guy. Give it a little bit of a tug here. Let's see what it's looking like. Ooh, this one, it's gonna be tough to get out of here. This is actually going to serve as the perfect demonstration of one of the things that I wanted to mention about Pacific golden chanterelles in particular and chanterelles in general. Oftentimes they'll break like string cheese. So notice how this didn't tear. Now that we've got more moisture, it's doing this kind of stringy breaking, which is really characteristic of this particular mushroom. This is oftentimes a defining characteristic. So it'll split lengthwise, just like string cheese. If we take a glance upslope, notice we've got an even nicer looking flower here. Let's give this guy a tug and see what it's looking like. It's cool to see these getting to be such a substantial size. You know, this is really a gift of the recent rains. I feel like we're getting into that territory where suddenly we're seeing, you know, what I would characterize as more fall chanterelles as opposed to those stout little summer chanterelles. So we're kind of in a weird little late summer shoulder season where we've gotten ample rain and the temperatures are such that things are really working in our favor. So I have a feeling that today is going to be an incredible day out here. This is certainly a good sign to start. And boy, just look at that. Little piece of perfection right there. And look at this, just beautiful nature's art here. Look at the base. Isn't that beautiful? So we see those, you know, threads, those golden threads off of that. So as you well know, this is an ectomycorrhizal fungus that's associating with the trees, most likely Douglas fir and hemlocks nearby. So I'm just moving across a slope on a game trail. Beautiful mossy forest. And something's catching my eye up here. See if you see that. Not sure if you can make that out, but it's a little bit of a shrub with a slight little flash of color. This actually, it's interesting because this looks to be a white chanterelle. Let's actually give this a look. See how it's almost completely buried? It's not really pushing up the same way as a lot of the Pacific golden chanterelles do. So let's actually give this a little yank here. And you can see, beautiful. So very stout, sturdy. This is our White Chanterelle, Cantharellus subalbidus. And what you'll notice is that right now, so the big thing is that these veins underneath are white, just as white as the cap. And you can see, you know, this, you could argue that it's a little bit golden on the cap, and as I clean this off and handle it, it will bruise golden color. But right now you can tell that it's got this ivory color. So that's real distinct on this one. Very cool to be finding both of these popping up simultaneously in the exact same habitat. A lot of times these white chanterelles are associated with kind of drier, more well-drained soils, similar to the habitat where we find a lot of matsutakis. So sometimes there will be sand or ash connected at the base here when we pluck these, but not the case here. This is our typical Pacific golden chanterelle habitat, and the white chanterelles are just making an appearance. So right conditions for these guys to be flourishing out here. So it's a new day, and I'm back into one of my favorite chanterelle patches. And you know, what I was gonna say is I'd encourage you all, if you find a really good patch, you know, and you see small little chanterelles like this, I would encourage you, just throw a little moss on them or a little leaves. You know, if you wait a week or two, you're very likely to get a lot more bang for your buck on these. So if you ever find one of my patches, start turning over leaves, because there's a good chance that there's chanterelles under there. I think of this, you know, as I was joking around about the other day, it's almost like farming, you know. These are really, they can grow fast given a little bit of moisture, and you know, the little ones are just as good as the big ones, but why not let the little ones grow into big ones, get that much more? Or just leave a few out here. Let them spore out a little later, or carry them around with you, use a net bag, what have you. But where there's one, there's usually a lot more. So, you know, I've been harvesting out of this patch for quite some time, but you can see that there's quite a few. I suspect there's probably more that I've covered and even forgot about. Yeah, even back here, we've got another one. But you know, a lot of experienced mushroom hunters really know that when you find one chanterelle, you're very, very, very likely to find a lot more. So really take your time, pause, slow down. You know, the other day we came out here and we were foraging white chanterelles. So I was thinking a lot about those. And check this out over here. So I was thinking, wow, you know, I harvested a few pretty good size white chanterelles out of here. And I kept thinking about it and thinking, man, I bet that there's a lot more of them out there. You see one on the screen right now? Check this out. That's certainly one. Let's go take a look. So check this out. So as we referenced earlier, these white chanterelles oftentimes don't break that far above the moss or the surface. Sometimes they do, and it kind of depends somewhat on the substrate, but these guys can be really tricky because, as we referenced before, sometimes you're just looking for that trump, which is really surprising to a lot of people. Oh man, this guy is a beast. Look at that. Just beautiful, right? Got a little spider under there calling it home. I'll set that down. Let him go about his way there. And I might just leave. There's a big chunk of stipe down there. I'm debating whether or not to kind of pull that or replant it somewhere else. Check this out. So here's another one. Look how difficult these can be to see. But as we dust this off, look what's coming into view here. Just beautiful. I might move that branch a little. Look at that. Just beautiful, right? Perfect white chanterelle. Perfect time to be harvesting this too. Some of those Pacific golden chanterelles, I've gotten some really big ones, left a lot of small ones, but this is pretty ideal for these white chanterelles. Boy, just beautiful. And notice this is that white, very white ivory color right now, but that's going to change. It'll bruise that golden color in no time. And I just wanted to quickly mention that it's important to note that the white chanterelle is widely regarded as not necessarily being a beginner mushroom. And the reason why is that there are tons of lookalikes to the untrained eye. So this includes Russula mushrooms like Russula brevis, Clitocybe, which we generally refer to as the funnel caps, and then most importantly, Amanitas. All of these are examples of white gilled mushrooms that, especially when young, can look kind of similar. But here's what we're looking for is notice how, just as is the case with all chanterelles, the hymenium, which is just kind of fancy mushroom speak for the spore-bearing surface, these are going to be vein-like structures or ridges that are decurrent going down the stipe. Whereas a lot of these other mushrooms, the common lookalikes, have blade-like gills. So if you're already familiar with the Pacific golden chanterelle, it's not a huge jump or a huge leap to kind of draw those similar associations or things that you're familiar with from the Pacific golden chanterelle and draw those connections over to the white chanterelle. But if you're totally green and you're just getting into it, there are other chanterelles or other edible mushrooms that might be better to start with. But I would still encourage you to poke around, see what you can do to find some of these. It's an excellent mushroom and one of my favorites. Whenever I'm in these spots, I'm always constantly having to remind myself to just slow down and look and be patient. Because look at this, even though there's these two that are really obvious here, look at this guy, not so obvious over here. So this guy's just getting started. I'm gonna actually chuck a leaf over this guy and just kind of remember that spot, but I'm gonna give it a chance to grow to full maturity, or at least more mature. Okay, so when we look at this, this is obviously the Pacific golden chanterelle, Cantharellus formosus. And notice this beautiful, kind of classic yellowish orange, very characteristic of chanterelles, this color. And this is one of the reasons that it really stands out against the moss and forest stuff. Now it's worth noting that that yellow color is actually a result of beta carotene, which many of you, I'm sure, know that our bodies will convert beta carotene to vitamin A. So in the life of the mushroom, this actually also provides a lot of benefit. So this is an antioxidant, and aside from that, it's really an immune booster. So it's thought that the beta carotene that's contained within these mushrooms are part of what's responsible for this having such a good immune system. So it's unusual that you'll find a Pacific golden chanterelle that's buggy or infested with, you know, larvae or insects or anything like that. And a lot of that can be attributed to the beta carotene content that's in it. So historically, it's interesting too to note that at times this has been used in different folk medicines to treat parasites and intestinal worms and things like that. When it's used in this way, it's generally either dried and powdered or taken as a tincture. So kind of interesting to note that, you know, that's what we're seeing in that kind of characteristic Pacific golden chanterelle color. That golden color is actually beta carotene, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that from carrots and different foods or vegetables that we try to consume for different health benefits. So cool to think that that's in here and that it's playing a vital role in the health and immune system of this actual mushroom, and that it can actually benefit our immune systems as well. So very cool to note. And again, boy, they're really coming out right now. So if you're here in the Pacific Northwest, get out into your local forest, see what you can do to fill your basket with some of these beautiful Pacific golden chanterelles. Stout little guys this time of year, but boy, they're really coming alive, and I'm starting to see them much bigger. It seems like bigger and bigger every day. So they're really starting to bud out and fruit in a way that makes me excited to be out here in the forest. So cool to see one of my favorites, the Pacific golden chanterelle. And boy, I really do think it's all about moving slow when you get into an area like this. I was just appreciating this little display of alpine jellycone, Guipiniopsis alpina. And look what I see over here, not too far from where we were a second ago. A definite sign of another white chanterelle poking through. And boy, as we speak, check this out. So I'm just looking around. Hopefully I'm not standing on any. Here's another one right in here. Let me snake in and just kind of see what we're looking at. Just beautiful, look at that. Wow. They're literally everywhere in here. And in fact, I'm seeing another one. It's really tough to get a good angle on this guy. Let me actually work around and I'll get that on camera. Actually, you can see it through there right now. Let me go for it and just see what we've got going on here. Just see the cap. Boy, they really have a knack for hiding, finding great little hiding spots. Boy, just look at that. Beautiful. You can see a little bit of that golden staining up there. Boy, that's just beautiful. So a couple more there. And then we've got this guy that was the original one that caught my attention here. Let's see what this one's looking like. Oh, look at that. Just beautiful. Stocky little guys. These are hefty mushrooms, to say the least. Love finding these out here. They're really out. Let's see what else we can find in this little area. So just working through the forest here, and boy, feels like I'm really starting to get into them here. Just in all these little depressions and divots. Let's give this guy a tug here. Beautiful Pacific golden chanterelle. Get that little piece of the cap. Let's see what else we've got up here. Oh yeah, here we go. Right here. Boy, they can really hide, even though the color is so vibrant. Look at that. Just beautiful. And boy, we're really in the thick of it right now. Got a little patter of rain coming down. We're in pretty dense salal up here. I was actually walking on a log and a little flash of color caught my eye down here, a little splash of white. Let's give this guy a tug. Let's see what we got here. Look at that, just beautiful. Another white chanterelle. And you know where there's one, there's more. So, back here, got another. Good reason to give pause and take a look around, see what else I can find out here. But they're really out right now. Take a look at this. Hardly anything really to see. Gotta really look closely. Look at that. There we go, a couple twins. Standing proud. Beautiful. Look how clean these guys are. Oh man. Beautiful. And right now I'm in a really thick patch. It's kind of crazy because I have to be careful where I walk or put any weight. I'm just going to kind of show you this undisturbed area, what it looks like. So there are a few that are flagged, so I'm sure you all can see this one, right? And you can see how it's pushing up that duff. pay attention to what that shrump looks like, because a lot of times you don't get the luxury of being able to see that flash of white. If we look back there, there's another, and then behind that, there's another. Over there, there's more. I'm even seeing some over here to the left, but what I really want to point out, going back to our original, so there's the one that's like the flag, you know, that's very obvious. Now look off to the side here. Do you see how this stuff is just like stretched upward? This is our classic shrump. So you can know when you see that, if you're in a patch, you know to dig down and look what's underneath. Beautiful. So you really wouldn't know that's there without the flag, right? But once you see one, really slow down. Don't hop on the trail and jump. Don't be too excited to jump to the next spot, because a lot of times you're rewarded for patience out here on the mushroom trail. So I'm going to clean up this patch. Boy, there are, I feel like I can see pounds of them right now, because even back in there, let me see if I can you see that one back behind that yellow leaf and then off to the side? I mean, they're just everywhere. So I'm going to clean up, but awesome out here, such a gift. Boy, I love mushroom season. And holy smokes, definitely, easily the find of the day so far. This guy is an absolute giant. Look at this. Oh, unreal. Look at that, just beautiful. Boy, I'll tell you, for August, this is just a massive white chanterelle. This thing is huge. Look at that. Hopefully there's some more of these guys hiding out here. Look at that. Wow. What a thing of beauty. Whew. So I'm just cleaning this big one up right now. And boy, I tell you, as I look around here, I am just like so worried to step anywhere because I'm literally realizing that I'm absolutely just surrounded by them. I mean, they are everywhere. I'm probably going to, well, I don't know. I'm worried now about, am I going to be able to eat them all? Probably, because these guys keep pretty well. But I'll tell you what, this is quite the patch. Almost want to, I mean, I'm definitely going to remember it. I almost want to clean it up just so that this thing continues to remain as much of a secret as it can. But I don't know, we'll see. I might leave some. There's just so many. Awesome day. So I'll show you a little bit of what I mean. So that big one just came from nearby. And look what we've got. Another one. Absolute beauty. Look at that. So there's another. Let's do this. I see plenty more. Here we go. Here's another. Beautiful. And of course, there's more pretty much every direction. We'll keep pushing this way for now. Just gotta be somewhat methodical about it. Another beauty. Nice. Here we go with another. A lot of times it's good to look under branches where there's like, you know, just a little bit of drip action going on. I notice they tend to really like those spots. Here's a great example of just how much they can blend in. So take a look at this. So we see a bunch of Oregon grape leaves right there. And right next to it, this same shade, but not an Oregon grape leaf. Instead, white chanterelle. Just beautiful, just waiting to come home with us. Boy, just look at that. Wow. Picture perfect. And I'm just kind of lining them up here to kind of process them. But boy, like I was saying, pretty much everywhere, like I'm seriously nervous about where I step because a lot of times they're not, you can't really see them like this one. So you just got to kind of look for a disruption in the surface of the ground. Other times, you know, like up here, I don't know if you can see this. This is a little bit more obvious, but still really kind of tucked under there. But because there's no moss, it's a little bit more exposed, that white cap. But boy, these are just really something. This is my idea of a perfect day. There's really nothing else I'd rather be doing right now than stacking white chanterelles in August. I see one back in there. Of course, that always gives me pause, makes me look closer too. Boy, super hidden down here. Again, these white chanterelles are sneaky like that. Sometimes they'll kind of do their thing and really fruit out and become obvious, but more often than not, at least in my forest, they just barely push up, which makes them a little trickier to spot. Let's see what this guy's looking like. Oh yeah, here we go. Wow, pushing up under some roots. Beautiful, look at that. Wow, just beautiful. We've got another. Boy, I'll tell you, if you ever find a patch like this, where you're literally just pulling pounds and pounds and pounds of anything, really make sure to clean up after yourself. Reason being, it takes a lot of hard work and dedication and just time in the field to find spots like this. So, you know, if you leave a lot of cuttings or trimmings or scraps, sometimes that can really be a shortcut for other folks to locate your spot. If it's a really good spot, it's nice to kind of keep those a little bit on the DL, to keep them a little quiet and just kind of be able to shop at your convenience as opposed to having to beat the crowd. So, boy, I'm always really careful when I'm out here. When I'm doing my trimmings, I'm burying those, and as I've shown in videos past too, oftentimes trimming this off, planting it. And I think of that as like farming these patches, right? It's going to encourage them to really kind of continue to do what they're doing right now, which is awesome. So, just my 2 cents. We got some ravens yelling at us back in here. Maybe they want us to save some of these white chanterelles for them. Boy, I'll tell you, spending all day out here looking at these guys, they really start to jump out at you, even the ones that are perhaps a little more subtle. You know, like anything else, you start to get an eye for it. Oops, this one. Let's see if I can pull this up without totally bust. Oh, I see. It's caught underneath a little branch there. Let's see if that helps matters. I suspect it will. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful. And here we go again. Kind of tough to see, but here underneath the Oregon grape and amongst the salal bushes, see, sometimes these bigger twigs or sticks or roots will sort of hold them down, prevent them from kind of fully emerging. So you kind of really have to look closely on these guys. Boy, just beautiful though, right? I'm just exploring a new part of the forest and haven't found any chanterelles yet, but look what caught my eye down here. Look at this, isn't this cool? Cool owl feather. You can see it's almost like hairy on the surface, which allows it to fly silently through the forest and kind of swoop down on prey. Whenever I see something like that, I'm reminded of just how much is going on out here. It also gives me pause, makes me look a little more closely and look at it. It's almost like the forest is saying, hey, pay attention. You're in the right spot. Look at this. We'll have to see if this patch is as abundant as the other ones that I've been encountering, but certainly a good sign. This is a huge flag, which is going to cause me to just kind of slow down, look a little more closely. Just working my way back home, and I'm in a different section of the forest, and look what we have here. It's our old friend, yet another one. So I guess that, boy, the one patch was really producing, but, you know, seeming to be the case that they're just really, really out right now. Virtually everywhere out here in the forest. So cool to see another just beautiful example. Boy, look at these little golden mycelial threads or hyphae down there. That's pretty. Boy, they're really out. I'm gonna have to look a little more closely just to make sure that this isn't another super productive patch, but I'm making a lot of mental notes today of where I'm coming across all these, and boy, what a joy. We'll see if we can kind of dig up a few more in the locale, because as you well know, usually where there's one, there are several. And notice how on this one that I just cut, so see how there's this little primordia or this little stub that was going to turn into a second one? I didn't see that initially, or I wouldn't have pulled it up the way I did. So here's what I'm going to try to do though. I'm going to take this, I'm going to plant it right back in that original spot. I have no idea whether or not this will take, but I figure it's one of those things that's worth trying out. It's not going to hurt anything. I'm not losing a lot of weight by putting that back in there, so I'm going to just kind of tuck it in, cover it up, and let's do its thing, and we'll see if this comes back. Maybe if I can remember the spot, I'll check back on it just to kind of see if we can get it to kind of do what we want it to do and continue to grow. So I'm going to look around, see how many more of these I can find out here. I suspect there will be a few more to come. And wow, we're into another great patch right off the trail. Just incredible to see them. Boy, look at that. And these are all pretty stocky, just super good looking mushrooms. Look at this guy up here. Look how sharp he's looking. Got a nice, really nice perspective of him still in the ground. Boy, this is going to be a good spot. I'm going to continue to poke around. I may not record all of it because I fear that some of this might start to get repetitive, pounds upon pounds of white chanterelles, but boy, such a joy. I keep thinking, okay, I'm going to put the camera and the mic away. Not going to film anymore. And then this keeps happening. Look at this. Just a monster. Just beautiful. And look at this one. This one's even bigger. Oh my goodness. And then back behind there, another, more back there. Oh my goodness. Just doesn't stop. What a day. And boy, overall came away with over 7 pounds of chanterelles, 6 of which were consisting of the white chanterelle. So that's really out there right now. And to be honest, the day after filming this, I was out in the same forest and got an equal weight of Pacific golden chanterelles. So things are just going nuts out there right now. Also was harvesting King Boletes up in the North Cascade, the Porcini. So, as well as lobsters. So boy, there's so much going on out there that it's tough to keep up with the editing. So let me know what you'd like to see more of. And remember, if you're liking these videos, hit the like button, subscribe, stay tuned, and until next time, happy trails.